Grab your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage. Do not drink and drive. Sit back and relax and enjoy the latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. Everything in this podcast is for psychoeducational and entertainment purposes only. Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Join us as we attempt to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I'm not drinking wine this morning. I am Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist, and today I'm drinking coffee because it is early in the morning. Well, early for me at least. No, it's not anymore. God, I hate that. But it's morning. But my coffee does, I must say, have some Baileys in it.
Atta girl.
I did zhuzh it up a little. And my cup says, I sip this every time I'm right.
Brilliant. Excellent. And I am Bree Burry, licensed registered therapist in British Columbia, Canada. And I am drinking coffee because this is my favorite beverage, even above alcohol. But my mug says, wait for it, you're going to love this, Dr. Larman. If you see me talking to myself, just move along. I'm self-employed and we're having a staff meeting. I think this is the best mug for a therapist, 120%. So
I have staff meetings a lot.
right? So there it is, all right here.
You know, it's funny because way back when earbuds were first coming out with people talking on their phones with earbuds. And one time it was the anniversary of my husband's death, actually. And I was just needing to vent, needing to talk, needing to whatever. So I was walking and I took my phone and I put my AirPods in and I talked. I talked to myself. I talked to my husband. But it looked like I was talking on the phone.
Ah.
So I could have my conversation because I put my earbud in with the phone in my hand. It was just so I could talk to myself.
Here's the deal. They say that people that are very intellectually intelligent do this. They have conversations with themselves.
You kind of have to. Doesn't it help with problem solving and stuff?
Well, it does because you're assessing it, you're processing it, and having a conversation like with a person that you can't have a conversation is actually quite self-soothing and healing.
I mean, there is a difference. I'm going to say this. There's a difference between yelling at the void and having a conversation with yourself, knowing it's yourself. Like
that's when people might look at you like you are in active psychosis.
Yes. So just
FYI. Okay. So this is part 2 to our last podcast about Are They a Narcissist? As we didn't finish all of the possible isms or things that are said by people who, whether they are narcissistic, does that determine that or does it not?
And just like we said last time, people have traits and tendencies of narcissistic personality disorder. They ebb, they flow. That does not make them narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of these behaviors that interfere with pretty much every aspect of their life. There's really, with NPD, not an aspect that it doesn't affect.
No.
So, and they're not just, oh, this happened this one time.
No.
Again, pervasive. So these are what people have said. This is not a scientific, this is BuzzFeed I was reading, but it's things that people said. The title of the article is, It's So Stressful to Interact with Them. 21 Things That Scream, I'm a Narcissist, according to people who found out the hard way. So we're just talking and discussing these, that they are not necessarily things that scream that someone is a narcissist. Okay? And this one is one of them. When people are uninterested in the conversation, then I mention a valuable skill I have and their ears perk up. Only interested in talking to me if I can do something for them. And then the next person says narcissists are very transactional. Yes, a narcissist is only about what can you do for me. You have to elevate me in some way, financially, physically, emotionally, professionally, whatever. However, a lot of people are transactional. Now, again, when we talk about narcissist, we're talking about narcissistic personality disorder. Now, if we say narcissistic, can we just use that as egocentric, full of yourself, big buffoon, but not NPD? They're not interchangeable.
No. No, they're not interchangeable. I'd say with that comment, I mean, it's easy to take it as this person is self-centered and they're all about them and narcissist. But again, uh, not when the intent is to be, malicious to the other person. Like self-serving as long as it can serve me. But again, yeah, like we all have to get our needs met. Let's just put it that way. So when we look at being a human, we all have to get our needs met. We all have to have a job. We all have to make money. We all have to I worked in sales for a long time. I had a network marketing business that did really well for years, and it's a form of sales. But I also worked in sales in the wine industry for a long time. And when you're in sales, it's all about relationship building. And you have to really believe in what you're doing and you're providing a service for someone. They can take it or leave it, right? But if you look at it, is what you're doing manipulative? Yeah, I guess to
Yeah.
100% it is. But is it manipulative to harm another person? No. It's not used in a negative context or in a malicious way in order to get my need or my company's need met. It's providing a service. It works both ways. I have something for you that you need from me or that you want from me, and I can provide that to you. Now, I'm going to build a really good relationship with you and that there's trust there, and my intentions are honest and good. If you don't want it, this is what you learn. You don't push people. You don't be a cheesy car salesman. You don't manipulate. You don't take advantage. You do, and again, you believe in what you're providing another person. When I worked in
Hmm.
my network marketing business, it was a holistic health business. And again, a big company in the States, because you guys don't have medical care that we have here. So people would go with the cheaper option, which was trying to find out holistic remedies versus going to doctors and hospitals. And you know what? It worked and it worked for my kids and I loved it. And I was out there helping people. Like I'm a person of help and service. Does it come at a cost? Well, we live in a world of consumerism. Yeah, of course it does. But if you don't want it, hey, you do you. There was no pressure, there was no pushing, there was never anything. This is where you build trust with people, right?
When they say that, they mention a valuable skill and then their ears perk up, only interested in talking to me if I can do something for them. How do you know? Because my question is, when I'm listening to someone and they have this skill,
Yeah.
isn't and I'm interested, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, doesn't necessarily mean that I want you to do something for me. So
No.
that in and of itself, the way they wrote that is they're only interested in talking to me if I can do something for them.
Yeah.
That their ears perking up does not mean that to
Yeah,
me.
you're a
It's left
narcissist.
out
No.
stuff like, oh, and
No.
then they want me to do it for free or whatever, or
Okay,
because
I get the part that if they're talking and they don't seem interested in what you're saying, and all of a sudden you do say something that interests them, and then you go, oh, now you're interested in what I'm saying, but you couldn't have given two shits 2 minutes ago about what I'm talking about because they're in their own head and they're self-centered. Yeah, there's an element there to be cautious about, right? 100%, big
but
time. But
non-narcissistic
but but but
people do the same
non-narcissistic
thing.
people with ADHD will do this. They're constantly in their own head, and then they're having this conversation. And rather than listening to you fully, sorry, my dog is pushing my computer back. Listening to you fully, they're waiting to get to talk to you back because they're so like again when you look at human behavior and communication, that isn't necessarily malicious and intent, and it's not to hurt you. It's just how they've been maybe not heard or seen throughout their entire life, and therefore are they really listening to what you're saying? Are they actively listening, or are they just, waiting for you to stop talking so they can say what they need to say back to you? Often you'll find people who are neurodivergent will do this. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're narcissistic. Is it more self-serving and self-centered? Yeah, but it's not malicious to with the intent to hurt you. And so again, you have to be careful. And then if you do, like I'll say, for example, I met a friend yesterday who I met sitting in the lineup at the blood lab getting blood, and 2 hours we were, chatting, and she's lovely. And we met yesterday. And lo and behold, she does pottery. And this is something I've been wanting to get into for a long time. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh my God, can I come to pottery with you? That's so exciting.
Narcissist.
Am I a narcissist? No. She has something and I could learn from her, but I value her. And does it benefit me? Yes. Does it benefit her? Maybe. But the friendship, I'm still going to be, I like her. I want to get to know her. She's a valuable person. I'm not just being there like, oh, I'm gonna be friends with her because she does pottery and I know that would be an easy way in so I can start doing what I need to do or want to do.
You said manipulate. Everybody manipulates. Animals manipulate. We manipulate.
That's how we get
Manipulate
that.
for good instead of evil. Because
Yes.
manipulate and
Different.
influence. Because when we meet
Mhm.
someone, we're trying to influence them to be our friend if we
Yeah.
like them. So
Mhm.
it's exploitative when narcissists manipulate. They're usually manipulating again for evil, but
Mhm.
also they're exploiting.
Well, they
So
are, but
if
for
they're,
harm. They're doing it because they
yeah,
don't care
well,
that
that's
it
what
will be harmful
exploitation
to
is.
you. And they'll do all of it. They'll do all of
So
the exploitation and all of the manipulative behavior to get their own
yeah,
needs met that will cause harm to another person regardless.
so if they're only interested in talking to them to exploit them, there is
Mhm.
a difference. Now, let's say you were NPD and this lady did pottery. Suddenly, how can I get her to not only teach me pottery, but teach me pottery like for free at my convenience when I want it and what I want and
And
however
the only time she hears from me is when I want to do
when you
pottery.
want that. That would be more of a
Narcissistic uh,
yes, an MPD trait.
pathology, personality trait. Yeah, big, big time. Okay, that's great. Next one.
Backhanded compliments. That is not just a narcissistic personality disorder trait.
No.
This says, I had a friend who handed out backhanded compliments every single time I saw him. When I got a new car, nice car. I'm getting a new car soon too, but probably won't go for that brand. When I bought a house, nice house. I'm really pleased for you. Just a shame it's in the middle of nowhere. Turning up at a wedding. Wow, you look great. Nice suit. That's the same one you wore to another mutual friend's wedding, right? Overseas holiday. Looks like an amazing trip. Wouldn't be my thing though. Getting exhausting to be around. That is not.
That's covert abuse, though.
Yes, but that in and of itself, because you know who else does stuff like that? Histrionic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mine is better, or
Mhm.
mine is worse, or oh, you're wearing that outfit. I've
Because
seen
it's a
it before.
competition, because again,
Yeah.
it's an inferior complex. But can narcissists do that? Yeah, they can.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so can other
Absolutely.
personality disorder type people that are just, again, uh, that are inherently toxic.
Insecure too, and
Well, because
insecure.
that's what it is. It comes, well, we all know that cluster Bs all stem from insecurity, unless there is that ASPD of being almost robotic in some sense. But it is all based on shame and insecurity and inferiority. They feel inferior. So again, what are they going to do? Anytime that you come with something positive, they're going to try to put you down and they're going to try to make you feel inferior and them superior to you. So they have to somehow say, "Oh, nice this, but
There's
oh,
always a yeah
you know
to
what? Oh,
drop it down a
wow,
notch.
you look great. You've lost weight." And but then somehow come up with the how do we
You need to lose a little bit more, and that dress would look even better
but you
on
know
you.
what? And that dress looks great, but maybe a dress like this would be more fitting for your figure.
Yeah.
That again, like a compliment, but then it's covert abuse.
But it's also because like this, okay, remember, they are exploitative and they are what can you do for me? How can you escalate me? How can you benefit my life, my being? So if I'm
Mhm.
going to, what is love bombing? Compliments, 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 compliments. Oh my God, you're the best thing to ever happen to me. Oh, until they don't need it anymore, until they've got you. And then they're the backhanded and there's shitty compliments. My
Mhm.
boyfriend was, or shitty if there's not a compliment. My ex-boyfriend was a covert narc, I think. I had repeatedly told him I wish he would compliment me more often, as I did him. So he would robotically say, "You look beautiful," every once in a while without an ounce of sincerity. I explained to him that specifically that compliments, excuse me, I explained to him that usually compliments are specific, like I love your hair like that. He proceeded to point out that he loved my smile lines and my gray hair. What the fuck? Okay, again, that doesn't make someone narcissistic personality disorder. Some people, and I'm not trying to condone this behavior by any means, but some people just,
Don't get it?
yes,
That would
thank you.
almost seem more of a neurodivergent reaction. They don't know how to reciprocate. properly.
It's
So
kind
it's
of
more
Asperger's
robotic.
to be
It
like
is,
that.
that is Asperger's-y. I was just going to say that sounds more Asperger's-y. And I know we don't use that term anymore, but very much with the lack of understanding of social reciprocity. They don't know. They have to study you to understand mirroring and what's appropriate and what isn't. And so for them to say something like, oh, you're beautiful, robotic, because you say you need this, they're doing it because you're telling them that they need to do this, but they don't understand what that really means.
They know
And
it's a good thing to
it's a
say.
good thing to say, but they don't,
I don't
there's
know
no
really
feeling to
why.
really to back it up and they don't understand
Yeah.
why. That's Asperger's, as well as the, oh, okay, well, I like your gray hair and I like your lines because it's right in front of them, which they might like. And it's not meant to be backhanded and it's not meant to be
And it's not
insulting.
meant to say you're
No,
old.
it's your old. It's
They,
that they're seeing because they're
that's what
so
they like.
literal. People with Asperger's
Yeah.
don't understand sarcasm either. You can't tell them a joke because they don't get it. So again, being like, oh, well, I like your lines on your face and I like your gray hair. Think Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
Big time.
Viv and
Perfect
then young
example.
Sheldon. It's like everything is so literal. So that would be more of that. That doesn't make them narcissistic.
A narcissist would be like, well, if there were reasons to compliment you, I would.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
You
Yes. It
know?
would be like, yeah, again, cruel. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of a client I have, okay? And her mother is malignantly narcissistic. So this client of mine, she's always struggled with her weight, okay? And because she's dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of CPTSD and now PTSD from accidents she's been in, she's put on even more weight and she's really uncomfortable. Her mother will go out deliberately and buy clothes that are too small for her. Oh, but just try it on. Just try it on. Just try it on, or way too big that she knows wouldn't fit her, like a 3X when she's not morbidly obese,
Yeah.
right? And knowing she's like, yeah, but it might fit small. Just try it, just try it. So the insidious abuse there and the covertness,
There's
I'm
an
just trying to help
underlying
you.
message to
Yeah,
that.
it's that I'm fucking with your head to make you feel worse than you already do. And a mother is doing this to her daughter. How sick is that?
Yeah.
That is narcissism.
Yeah.
That's cruelty. That is with the intent to harm.
You got to remember with narcissists, again, I say it all the time, exploitative,
Yeah.
entitled, everything is for their benefit. And yeah, at your detriment. And
Right.
especially once you are no longer a benefit to them,
Yep.
then there are no compliments. Then
Hmm.
it's just you're the like worst person in the
Hmm.
world, and I'm going to do everything in my power. For example, I told my ex, I used to think that he was Asperger's. He's probably still. Now, Asperger's is still the diagnosis if you were diagnosed with it before 2013.
Hmm.
Still considered Asperger's. You can say ASD, but it's still Asperger's. After 2013, they don't have Asperger's anymore. They just call it low
ASAP.
support needs or high functioning autism.
Hmm.
But to me, that's such a
I
mischaracterization.
know. We were just talking about this before we started the podcast that we just wish that, in the DSM-4, that they hadn't have really
Changed
broadened ASD
Asperger's
to just a
or
spectrum
changed
disorder because it
ASD.
was there was a lot more clarification because autism, yeah, it's spectrum and everybody's different, but there's definitely certain aspects of autism that are different. My daughter and Jody's son are both would be considered now on the
On the
ASD
spectrum.
spectrum, but your son has
PDD,
PDD,
pervasive developmental
yeah,
disorder.
disorder, which is what my daughter would have been diagnosed with, but she got diagnosed when it was under ASPD, or sorry, AASD, not
Oh,
ASD.
yeah.
She's not a sociopath.
Not a
ASD
Freudian slip,
diagnosis.
people.
No, Freudian slip. ASD, and again, but doesn't show, there's no Asperger's there at all. Like, her social skills are great. She makes eye contact. She does all these things. She would have had the PDD diagnosis for sure. But
So they are different. So again, when you have someone who they're not giving backhanded compliments, they're either giving you a compliment that you know is not sincere. That's a love bombing. They
mhm,
want something from you.
mhm,
Or the compliment is, I would give you compliments if there was something to compliment.
mhm. But let's go back to that question there because I think it's that we don't want to confuse people. I think there is an element to that type of like that type of backhanded compliments that is abusive. And whether it's a covert narcissist or it's somebody with histrionic, it's the intent to harm the other person,
It
right?
can just be toxic, period, though. It doesn't
Just
have to fit
toxic.
into something. So if somebody gives you a if you have a partner that gives you backhanded compliments, that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean they're narcissistic. It doesn't mean they have a
But it
diagnosis.
is, but it is a
It
trait
is
of narcissism.
toxic. It
It's
is not
toxic, and I
okay.
would say it is a trait of like a person who is narcissistic would do those things for
Right.
sure, right? Doesn't mean that they are a narcissist,
No.
not necessarily. Again, you have to look at all the five traits have to be there out of the nine traits of the criteria to be diagnosed with
And
NPD.
go back and watch our case studies. We have a bunch of podcasts that go through the diagnoses,
Yeah.
about NPD.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
I am a child. I am the child of two narcissistic parents. Growing up, I was mostly a prop to make them look better to their friends. Thankfully, I ended up being a disappointment to them by not being the popular kid, as they could not understand why I didn't want to be a huge social person. They both use Facebook to brag and make themselves seem more important than they are. It's exhausting. The one thing that I'm not seeing in these, though, is the exploitative intent to harm, not in, well, yeah, they're harming them, but like it's more of an egotistical everything. And this is where there is a difference between NPD. NPD is egocentric, they're delusions of grandeur and all that. But you can also be me without being NPD. Now, one of the things that parents do is my child's the best, my child's the best, my child's the best in public. And in private, the child in their mind is a piece of shit and ruining their life. And why are you here? And I have to take care of you. And I don't want to take care of you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had that growing up.
that
Yeah,
is very toxic
it is.
and potentially MPD. It could be borderline. It could, well, I'll say cluster B.
It's just
Cluster
cluster
B.
B because cluster B
Yeah.
and in all senses, I mean, they can be there's abuse there, right? So, is that though, are they saying that's sort of a broad generalized statement? There isn't a lot of backing other than the fact that the parents want to seem perfect on the outside. And yes, that can be a trait, that can be something, but a lot of people do that. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're
Especially
narcissists.
with social media,
Yeah, 100.
especially
Well,
with
now that we have that,
Instagram and yep.
before we had social media, it was about sports or an activity or
Or
a
in the
hobby
neighborhood, in
in
the
the neighborhood, and
neighborhood.
oh, my kid this and oh, my
Yeah.
kid that, and bragging at events where there's a public display that
Yeah.
my kid is the best and that showing the kid off, but the kid's introverted and doesn't really want to be. Again, I'll use my client. That's her mother. Her mother is the social butterfly and she's an introvert and she doesn't like it. And it's like, but why can't we go out and I want you to meet my friends and I want you to meet. She's like, I'm not, that's not me. And her mom can't wrap her head around that because her mom needs to be seen as the center of attention and the perfect one, and look at my life and look at my kids and look at my this and look at my that. Again, children to a narcissist, you're just an extension. They're just extensions of the narcissist
Your purpose is to make me look good.
all the time. So, yes, there's an element to what they're saying, if that's part of
But
it.
in and of
Is it all?
itself,
Yeah, no.
very sociable, quite likable upon first meeting, but they don't have any close friends, or most friends don't last too long. My ex-friend had a lot of friends, but he was the biggest chronic cheater and liar you would meet. Charismatic and alluring to people who didn't know him like I did. But when I say he had a lot of friends, they never lasted long. Not because he would get caught. I was seemingly the only one who'd catch him and challenge him on his behavior, but because he would social hop from group to group just to gain from them. He never really did consider them friends. When life hit rock bottom, he would always be alone and try to hit me up. I finally rejected him after he reached out for the 100th time. I was always his fall guy when his life went to shit. During periods of reflection, he admitted that he was a shitty person and that I deserved more. Thought he was genuine, but he went back to his old ways really quick, and now he's the loneliest guy in the room. NPD will, one, always be the loneliest because no matter how much they have, it's never enough.
Hmm.
However, they will never be the loneliest because they're always going from this to this to this to this, supply, 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 supply. So they won't allow themselves to be seen as lonely. They
Hmm.
won't allow themselves to be alone. My ex had a group of close friends. So I thought, again, it's not narcissistic. Now, what I said when I told my ex I thought he was Asperger's, but now I know he's NPD. I do think he has Asperger's though, but now he's NPD. And he asked me, what's the difference? And I said, well, Asperger's, there's a social disconnect. They don't mean to hurt you. They're not trying to hurt you.
Yeah,
There's
there's no
just
malicious
that
intent.
disconnect. And he said, okay. And I said, narcissist? Oh, they want to fuck you up.
Hmm.
And his response was, okay.
Hmm.
So I used to think, again, he's got friends. So again, he's got friends from high school and stuff. And then I realized when I really put two and two together, if you really look at the evidence, every time they were together, they were always drunk and high. Always. He would call me. I talked to his friends and they're all drunk and everything. And I'm like, you know what? That's why they've stayed friends so long, because they're never sober doing things.
No, and they're not connecting on a deep level in order with
No.
trust and everything else to maintain a friendship. I will use my past relationship as an example here. It's classic, and it even snowballed me a little bit in recent learnings. Uh, he always seemed to have a group of friends from where we live here, and then also from his hometown in another province, and that he had these connections with people. But um, it's interesting as time has past and the odd social media pop up where I see there's a whole group of new people that I've never seen, known, and I'm like, who are these people? Why is he hanging out with these people? That's weird. And not because they just come up on my feed with other mutual friends that we have together, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are, what's going on. And then it makes sense, right? Knowing a little bit more of where he's moved on and how he's moved on, he has completely written off all of his other friendships because they know who he really is, and he's done some pretty shitty things in regards to what his best friend was, apparently his best friend. He's now, I won't go into details because this is public, but he has done something that definitely severed ties with that friendship for sure. And when I happened to have a conversation with a person who knows very much the details of that situation, they said, I don't get it, Brie. Every time we talk, you say, "Oh, that's his best friend." They're not best friends. They're not best friends. He my person doesn't see him in that light at all. And they're always just drinking. He's just like a go out party guy, and they party together and that's it. And I went, "Oh my God, of course." And now all of those friends are gone, and now he's moved on to a new
Yep.
social group because he can't maintain relationships. And there was one instance when he went back home when we were still together, but we weren't because I had found out about more infidelity. And he was telling and playing victim and oh, I fucked up and blah, 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 and took, momentary accountability so he could garner the empathy and sympathy from his friends. One just said, well, why don't you just try not being a douchebag? And he told me that, and I'm like, I think I really like your friend. But again, these are all superficial relationships. They can't
Yeah.
maintain friendships. They absolutely cannot.
No.
Yes, so this comment that this person is making, they can't maintain relationships. It's pervasive.
And during a period of reflection, he admitted that he was a shitty person and I deserved more.
Been there,
I
echoed
had,
that, and then
what is
took it
that
back.
saying? What is that saying? If I had a nickel for
Yeah, for
every
every
time
time.
my ex would say to me, I'm a piece of shit,
That's a fake apology,
deserve
and
better.
but they're playing victim. They want you to feel sorry for them. That's all they're doing. That's manipulative in itself. That's
I
a
thought he
manipulative.
was genuine, but he went back
Yeah.
to his old ways really quick. They, they're not old ways. They
Hmm.
are ways.
Those are the
They
ways.
are their
So, but
ways
here's the deal. That's
all
their
the
way.
time.
Is this in context? Is this narcissistic or is it not?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
In NPD does this? Absolutely. Now, can non-NPD do this? Absolutely. This is not in and of itself
Mm-hmm.
NPD because it goes with it, but it sounds like the way that this person wrote
Is
this.
describing it as quite narcissistic. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just this is what they do and then they apologize and then they go back. This is the only time they call me is when, oh, their life is bad. When a narcissist discards you, they don't put you, they put you on a shelf for later.
Yep, they do.
You're
Yes, they do.
never gone.
No, no. Well, that's just it. They keep you again for backup supply. That's why it's important to go no contact because they will always find ways to reach out
Mm-hmm.
and play victim.
Yep. So Okay. When they have an ulterior motive for the nice things they do. I had a boss who offered to take a sick employee home and was very caring and sweet about it. When they came back, I mentioned in passing that I thought that was really nice. They looked at me and deadpan said, "Why would I want to pay them to work twice as long as I do to do a task as another employee?" So when they're sick, they're taking a long time.
Hmm. No empathy.
That in and of itself, no.
No.
Now, will an MPD do that? I
Yeah.
don't even know that an MPD would do that because why would I drive you home? Fucking, I will call you an Uber and make you pay for it.
Yeah, yes and no, though, because again, everybody's different. It depends on how covert or manipulative, or okay, if I have to drive this person home because it's benefiting me in some way, I guess I'll do that. I guess if you're an extreme narcissist or somebody that is really not going, then fine, they would like, why would I bother? I can just pay somebody to do this. But it really depends on the circumstance, I think.
Well, this is the boss. So if I was the boss, I would be like, yeah, call a taxi, call a cab, drive home. I had a, she was cluster B supervisor who I had to leave work the prison one time because I'm allergic to narcotics, painkillers, everything, and I took a quarter of an Ultram and I got so sick. I had to go home. I had tunnel vision. The drive was hard. And she called because I lived an hour away. And she
Right.
called me when I was almost home and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I heard you left. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Next time, don't drive home by yourself. We'll find someone to take you home." I'm like, "Okay." I just okay. But again, it was like not I would have taken you home. It was we would find you somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, because I can't be bothered to go out of my way to
Mm-hmm.
help you.
Yeah, that's true. It is. I just again though, there's varying levels. I mean, I look at a friend who's got an incredibly covertly narcissistic ex-husband, and just so he looks good, he would do things to make himself look good to everybody else around him so
Oh, yeah.
that his image is maintained.
Well,
So
like
again,
this one said, we had a distant family member stay with us who turned out to be a narcissist. She would constantly try to control us with nice acts. One example was she replaced all our furniture in the living room and gave us a new TV on her husband's dime, of course, because she didn't work. And the real reason she was to make her look generous. She didn't like our shabby furniture and she began taking control of the TV she bought and complained about how we treated the furniture that she bought.
mm,
So again, if it's going to make them like if that boss walked through the building going, "I'm going to take them home because they're sick," if there's no one to know,
oh no, they won't do
they're
it.
not going to do it.
Again, if it's a show to show everybody else that they're so good and they're so kind and they're so compassionate, then yeah, that's serving a purpose because
And I'm never going to let you down, let you
uh,
forget it either.
yeah, well, no, they won't because again, it comes with a cost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always a cost.
There's always a
Oh,
cost. Okay. So next
when
one.
it becomes clear they weren't listening to me talk, my dad does this. He would sit quietly and wait for me to finish speaking, then say something on a completely different topic. That is not listening. That's waiting for your turn to speak. You spoke on that earlier.
I did. That's not necessarily narcissism.
So it's rude, but
Yeah.
um, another one. One thing I noticed is when they want to control you, they project exactly what they're doing onto you. Yes. My
Yes.
abusive ex used to say I was a narcissist, manipulative, selfish bitch, and often say I was trying to gaslight him into feeling guilty about the things he did wrong to me. They also bully you, and when you defend themselves, they play the victim. Once he said a joke that was really humiliating just to get a laugh from his family, and when I confronted him about it, he started crying. That
Whoa, Darvo.
there, that
That's
one,
narcissism.
that's
Yes.
the first one I've seen that
That is
I'm like,
classic deflect and Darvo play victim. Yes. Using
gaslight.
cruel intent to harm the joke,
How
knowing it's harmful, then making it about him and don't be mad at me. I'm going to manipulate the situation and twist it to play victim. Yeah.
How many times I can tell you literally every single person I have worked with or that I have known that has been in a narcissistic relationship, including myself. And I don't like to say absolutes, but every single person has said to me, "Am I the narcissist? They told me I was a narcissist.
Oh, every single
Maybe I
person.
am."
Yeah.
That is
It's
a huge,
indicator. It's an indicator that you can tell the person right away, no, you're not, because no narcissist will ever self-reflect
you
toward
don't care. Narcissists don't give a
don't care.
shit. Does
They
not
don't
cause
care.
them
It doesn't matter.
distress. They don't care. And I
Yeah.
tell my clients too, if it's causing you distress, if you're so afraid of
Yeah.
being
You're
one,
not a
that's a
narcissist.
good sign that you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
They
It's
have no
actually
distress
the
about it.
sign that you're not.
But that is huge. Mind fuck,
Mind.
manipulating,
Yeah. Mind.
gaslighting,
Yeah.
Darvo.
Darvo, right?
Yeah.
And for those of that, if this is the first video you're watching, you don't know what Darvo is, why don't you explain what Darvo is, Jody?
Deny or deflect. So if you come at them, why is this woman's text on your phone?
Hmm.
They will deny that or
I don't know,
deflect,
right?
attack. What are you doing on my phone? Why
Yeah.
the hell did you pick up my phone? And then reverse victim and offender. Oh my God, this is why I can't trust you. This is why I have trust issues. You're
Yeah.
always in my stuff.
You're always invading my personal space. This is so unright. This is
I
so
can't
not right.
leave
This
my
is you're
phone.
being abusive. You're abusing me. You're invading my personal space. This is not okay. That's classic Darvo, and that's exactly what just happened in that last
If
descriptor.
you are left with, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah. But where you're going, wait a second, I was the one that,
How? You have a fucking woman's
yeah.
text saying, I
Yeah.
love you,
Yeah.
baby. And suddenly I'm
Exactly.
the
It is
bad
the
guy.
biggest mind fuck ever.
Oh.
Okay. So again, if you're going, wait a second, that's not how this was supposed to go. Okay,
Like,
next
what
one.
the fuck? The tone of voice and facial expressions when they're interacting with someone they see as lower than themselves in the social hierarchy. Most often, I see it with how they interact with children or people in the service industry.
Hmm.
Not really, because usually narcissists will be super kind to anyone who's their supply or that they see as a supply until that person is not a supply. Like
Hmm.
if a cashier at a store, hi, how was your day? Oh, my day was wonderful. See, they're so interested in my day. They care about me. But then if they like move to the next person without when they're done, they're not really supply, then it's like, fucking bitch. You know what I mean? It's like you don't really care
But
about me.
if you go based on what's out of the DSM as one of the traits is that they can only socialize and be around other special snowflakes just as themselves. If they see you as beneath them, they usually are haughty, rude, uncaring, and unkind. Unless it does serve them
Right.
something, unless they're getting something from you, then yes, they have an arrogance about them that they
Because
are better than you.
a server in a restaurant, like I totally just remembered this. My ex, we went to oh God, what was it called? ESPN Zone. But it's gone now, but it was at Disneyland, the downtown Disney. And it was super crowded. I think it was like World Series, super crowded. And it was hard to get a waiter for food. So the waiter brought us our stuff finally, and my ex comes back. He went over there and he comes out, he goes, I tipped him $50. So now we're gonna get good service. That wasn't our waiter. That was just someone who brought out the food. So the guy never came back.
I guess not.
But
Well,
see, he was like, we're gonna get special. I'm gonna tip him $50 and then we're gonna get
yeah.
great service. So even though the guy's beneath him, he's not beneath him because we're gonna get service because it's super crowded. The guy's gonna come to us before he comes to everyone else because I gave him $50 and was like, hey.
Hmm.
And then once he found out that wasn't going to happen, that he just gave it to some
Random dude.
busboy or whatever. Oh, well, then, that changes things because you aren't doing anything for me.
Hmm. Well, of
So
course.
now I could be a dick about it.
Yeah.
But initially,
Hmm.
thinking any form of compromise is them bending over backwards or them sacrificing, like, oh man, you guys owe me, I'll owe me because I'm giving up my whole day to do not exactly what I want. When a compromise is made, we both don't get 100% of what we want and meet in the middle. Also, in a relationship or specifically starting out, if anyone uses the term, I let you, that's a huge one. I let you do this thing you like, so now you owe me. Probably the biggest one and easiest to tell quickly if someone can't be impressed by anything or give credit to anyone or give anyone credit for anything. They have to find something to pick apart to divert credit from anything cool that they see. So people can't think anyone but them can do anything cool. that doesn't really go with the first one, but it was all one paragraph. But I cannot tell you how many times, and I was just talking to this with one of my clients. Um, you don't know, my ex would say to me, and she was telling me that the guy she was dating is this, you don't know what I sacrificed for this.
Hmm. Well, yeah, if they're constantly reminding you that they're going out of their way to support you or do whatever.
It's like you sacrificed what? Oh, sleeping with other women. No, you didn't sacrifice that. You're still fucking doing it.
Well, my ex-husband does this with my kids. I drive you everywhere. I bend over back. I'm like, yeah, you're a parent. That's not special. You're not special, right?
Like,
You're
ugh,
and making them feel guilty and bad or trying to shame them into believing that, he does the fundamental things as what the basic needs of a child need to be met and he has to guilt trip them for that. It's very narcissistic that when people do shit like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that,
But again, I'll never forget when my ex was toward the end, did this all the time because he was wanted to be with his new supply. So everything was like, you don't know what I'm sacrificing. And I'm like, why don't you tell me?
yeah.
If it's a sacrifice to be in this relationship, then maybe it shouldn't be a relationship,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, they always play victim and they like again, yeah. So, but is that really necessarily directly narcissistic? No, BPD can do that, histrionic can do that,
Mhm.
cluster Bs, other again, right? You have to see the nine traits and the five traits all have to be, and it has to be pervasive in all areas of life. Is it just one thing that they're doing out of all of these nine, then they wouldn't be considered NPD. Yes, it's a narcissistic trait, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist. Okay, next
And
one.
finally, going on and on about the important, wealthy, well-known people they know, the high-level positions they have held. Righto then, why are you here talking to me?
Oh, I hate to say it, but yes, this is a big trait of,
What is it called? Braggadocious. Yeah.
yeah, I have a relative, ugh, who does this, and it's so nauseating. Now, is he malignant in his narcissism? No, he's actually would give the shirt off his back for people he loves and cares about. And
Name
but
dropping.
he's but the name dropping and I would say so egocentric and just like literally brown nosing all the people with money and his self-importance and their self like it's just nauseating listening to him.
Now, a low self-esteem person will do this as well. They won't admit they have low self-esteem,
Mhm.
but they will do it to show
Brutal
you,
insecurity. Yeah.
huh?
Brutal insecurity.
Oh
They're
yeah, to show you that I am worthy. I am even more worthy of your friendship than you even know because I know all of these people and I'm this special person.
But let's think about one person that we all know that we talk about quite often who does this.
Big time.
Trump.
Big time.
This
Everybody's his friend.
it's classic narcissism. Look at that guy. He is literally they wrote the DSM about that man.
Ugh.
He is so textbook, but that's what he does. Oh, I'm this and this person. They're my friend, and I'm friends, and oh, I'm friends with Elon, a billionaire, and I'm like literally, yeah, that is very
Until
narcissistic
they
trait.
do something he doesn't like, then they're not, then no, 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 I don't like that person, never have, never will. They're a horrible person.
Hmm.
It flips.
Now, if they do this the odd time, doesn't make them narcissistic. No. If you say, "Oh yeah, oh I served so and so at a restaurant," and and you're sharing an experience of something of grandeur or importance or name dropping or celebrity or something, does it make you a narcissist? No.
No,
But when you're looking at this where they are constantly name dropping important people or people of status, people of success, people of money,
for
people
no
of
reason, too.
reason.
For no reason. Like, I know if I'm telling my history,
Hmm.
there's going to be name dropping in there. It's part of my history. But if I just randomly name dropping like Trump does, oh, and I saw the president of, we're really good friends. He said, I'm such a great person. I'm the best person that he's ever known. It's like,
Yeah. That's my relative. It's just so gross. It's like a name drop and
I
it's
thought
just,
you were
oh
going to say somebody
yeah, those
else,
are my
though.
people. Those are my people. Oh yeah, those are all my buddies. Oh yeah.
I
It's like
thought you were going to say someone else, though, who's a lot like
no.
Trump about the name dropping.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we know
But
that. That's big time. Apparently he thought that I was Jordan Belfort's ex-wife. Uh, I'm fuck. I'm Canadian for one. And yeah, no, and I'm a lot younger than that scenario. So FYI. Anyway, moving on.
But the whole reason for doing this is because, especially as a clinician and someone who has dealt with NPD on both sides of the chair, I treated them, or you can't treat them. I did sessions with them, and I now deal with victims of narcissistic abuse. And I've been in and experienced it myself. So personally and professionally, I've dealt with it.
Yeah, me too.
Was not the area I expected to go into and kind of get an expertise in, but it just happened that way. And so because of that, it is one of my pet peeves when I hear people calling everybody and everything narcissistic
Well, this is again what we
and a
were talking about in the
narcissist.
first video, is
So,
that the term is thrown around too loosely now. And I even have people commenting on my page or my work page about, oh, I'm so sick and tired of that, and it's toxic even hearing about it and blah blah blah. Again, the word is thrown around too loosely, but I think people are starting to understand some of the abusive dynamics they're in are quite narcissistic, and that they're learning about it. And it's so without um, you know, demoralizing or victim shaming here, in the sense that you're not taking somebody's experience with consideration or validating, because that's really important that you have to do that. You also have to look at what it is that they're seeing in the relationship. Does it really fit the criteria for NPD, or does this person have traits? If they have traits, then the person's toxic to some extent. Is it a healthy relationship? No. Do they have maladaptive coping strategies? Yes. Do they need to change? Yes. But does it actually um, define that person as a full-blown narcissist?
because I
No.
think all of these throwing around is what is the word I'm looking for? Sensitizes maybe
Hmm.
people to the fact that NPD is abusive in and
Hmm.
of itself. It's
Yeah, it is.
inherently abusive.
Hmm.
It fucks with your brain.
Well,
The
are
amygdala,
well, here's the question. Are all people that are abusive narcissistic?
no, no,
Hmm. Maybe
no.
that's something that we should touch on later when we have more time. Um, because you will see narcissistic stuff if you're with an abuser.
Yeah, but you can have someone that's cluster B
Yeah, you can. That can be
that's
very
not
abnormal.
narcissistic.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a difference again between NPD and cluster B. So if you want to say, are all toxic people potentially cluster
Right.
B?
Right. Well, cluster B
They,
is the overall of all of those dramatic disorders. So
yeah.
yeah, narcissism is within the cluster Bs, but it's not the only. So if you were to define the four cluster Bs, okay, you have histrionic, you have borderline, you have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, and you have ASPD, which is antisocial personality. If you were to use one word or one phrase to conceptualize each of these disorders, histrionic would be
Oh,
um, me, me,
oh,
center of attention, me, right? Like, look at
yeah.
me, over sexualized, look at me,
Look at
like,
me.
look at me, look at me. I
Look at
have to be the
me.
center of attention. It's me, okay? Borderline, it's a dependency disorder. They're completely dependent on push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, but they're a dependent. They are looking for somebody to caretake and look after. They are dependent. It's a dependency disorder. If you look at narcissism, it's grandiosity. It's an ego disorder. And then if you look at ASPD, it is exploiting the rights of others. Full on. This is where sociopathy and psychopathy fall under this, which are not a diagnosis, but they are within
Little
that.
subsets of, you
And
can't
again,
have
it's
those without
more,
having
you're going to see
that.
the Machiavellianism, you're going to see the psychopathy, and you're going to see the narcissism. You cannot have ASPD if you don't have narcissism. It is inherent within that disorder. And it's, again, people that have no remorse. It's almost like they look like
However,
as a reptile.
you just because you have narcissism doesn't mean you're NPD. If you are able to be diagnosed with ASPD and NPD, that's what people will call a malignant narcissist
Hmm.
or a sociopath.
Hmm.
However, you have NPD tendencies
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be diagnosed with it. So it's not in the diagnosis of ASPD as NPD.
No,
There
except when
are
you look
way
at
more
it
NPD
though,
traits
there
in
is
ASPD.
it can't be the other way around though. You can be a narcissist and not be ASPD.
Hmm.
You don't have to have antisocial traits or be antisocial to be a narcissist, but you do have to have high levels of narcissism within
It
ASPD.
within it, yeah.
It is within it. It can't exist without it because of the level of exploitive behavior and lack of remorse and lack of empathy that they just don't connect to. They literally use the world at
Little
their
pipe.
disposal. So again, you can look at the cluster bees and you can look at different things, but with um, and there's a lot of overlapping traits, and this is where it gets to be a little bit convoluted and confusing for people. But again, narcissism, people are becoming way more aware of it, and they're starting to understand and trying to, and the reason why it's becoming more outward is because people are trying to make sense of the abuse that they've been through. And because narcissistic abuse is very particular with the cognitive dissonance, with the gaslighting behavior, with all of the things that leave a person so confused that they don't even know what their experience has been, it's putting the pieces together and going, oh my God, that's what happened. Oh my God, that's what happened. Oh my God, they did this. Oh my God, maybe they're a narcissist. I didn't even know what that was. But now everybody that's heard the term, it's like, oh, this person did this. They cheated on me. They're a narcissist. No, not
Because
necessarily.
someone can be very toxic and an alcoholic.
Uh-huh.
They're not a narcissist. Well, I mean, they could be. I'm just saying, if they're alcoholic and they're toxic and they're domestic violence and they're doing this, that doesn't mean they are a narcissist. It
No.
means they're an alcoholic and they're toxic.
Yep.
So it's just I get so angry because I had gotten verbally attacked so many times with NPD is not abusive. It's not abusive. It's like it is abusive.
Who
If we
who tagged
call,
you with that?
oh, all over social media,
Ah,
all over social media, big time. Gen Z.
for all of the educated Americans out there.
God.
Sorry.
So the thing is, because we throw narcissist around, NPD abuse, I cannot tell you how many people are like, it's a lie. There's no such thing. It's not real
Well, that's the narcissist
because
speaking,
of
most
that.
likely.
So NPD abuse, and the difference is because of the gaslighting and the mind fucking and the Darvo and the love bombing and the breadcrumbing. That doesn't happen in all toxic relationships.
No, it doesn't.
It happens in toxic relationships, but it doesn't happen in all toxic relationships. So
Mhm.
it does. It affects your amygdala, fight or flight, hypervigilance. It affects your hippocampus and it affects your prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
So CPTSD, I don't like the word complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I think they should name it something else more specific to someone fucked you up. And once we can get it taken care of, you'll be fine.
Well, now they're starting to use the term narcissistic, or what is it, narcissistic abuse syndrome versus
I would
CPTSD.
rather see that.
Right.
Absolutely.
But again, but then again, complex PTSD is a reoccurrence of trauma over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not a singular event, which is why it's not considered PTSD. So again, narcissistic abuse syndrome is CPTSD. CPTSD is narcissistic abuse syndrome, and it really depends on the circumstances as to why you have CPTSD.
But I wish they would change it only because PTSD, we think about the physical, like you hear a loud noise, you know?
But that's again education and why it's not
Yeah,
in the DSM and why it's confusing for people because the only clinical diagnosis we have to give anybody that has CPTSD is PTSD.
PTSD. Yeah.
So,
If they even have like the emotional dysregulation, which is big in CPTSD,
mhm,
it's not as big. It can be big in PTSD, but
mhm.
it's not. CPTSD has all the traits that you need to be diagnosed with PTSD,
Mhm.
plus the
Plus way
emotional
more. Yeah,
dysregulation,
again,
the whole
and
world
not the
view
necessary that the
change.
flashbacks look different between PTSD
Yeah,
and CPTSD. Maybe that's a podcast we can do on the difference between PTSD and CPTSD,
makes it
along with
CPTSD.
the
Yeah.
abuse from narcissism that comes along in order to garner a CPTSD diagnosis.
I would love
On
that.
that note,
On
we're
that note,
at a time.
like, subscribe, share, comment. Love getting your comments. You can also email us comments, WCWYCW1 at Gmail, or leave your comments down below. And again, also, if you have questions that
Mhm.
you'd like potentially we can answer on a podcast, ask.
Yeah, guys, post below if there's topics or subjects that you want to hear more about. We're more than happy to accommodate, right? So on that
And
note,
then once we get more, hit like 1,000, we might even start doing, because they have the ability to do like super fans, super stickers, more things for our subscribers. So we're going to look into that.
okay. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.